assassination of the Ayatollah Khamenei is a bargaining chip. It's to help Iran realize that it's on its last legs. A few actors in the Middle East now consider Iran as an existential threat. One of the biggest power players being Saudi Arabia. So people will be celebrating. There are many Sunni actors in the Middle East who will secretly be celebrating this response by Israel as a victory against one of their greatest rivals, Iran. Iran has already enriched beyond 20%, some stockpile 60%. All Iran needed for a nuclear energy facility, if it were being honest.
Jordan, my very first question to you, because this is the developing story, and we do know that Israel and Iran are in war for a very, very long time. But this new attack, Operation Rising Lion, how do you see it spiraling in the entire Middle East? Because Iran has been saying that they will attack USA as well. But if that happens, it is going to be devastating.
Wars started by Iran's proxies has now been spiraling throughout the Middle East over the last year and a half. It was Iran ultimately who paid Hamas approximately $100 million a year, contributing that towards its budget, which invaded Israel on October 7th, 2023, and killed 1,200 innocent people. And of course, in recent years, Iran has also given anywhere between $400 million to $700 million, perhaps even upwards of that, to Hezbollah in Lebanon, just north of Israel, that amassed a rocket arsenal of 150,000 rockets that were once pointed at Israel and that contributed to the October 7th war after it began. And not to forget the Houthis in Yemen, which have been firing unto recently drones into Israel, trying to cause attacks, and recently hit Ben Gurion International Airport in the Tel Aviv area. And so Iran has escalated a war, a regional proxy war against Israel, aspiring for its destruction. And even though Iran supports a Shiite version of Islamism, it's ironic that its disdain for Israel is so strong that over time it has actually sponsored Sunni Islamist groups such as Hamas and the Islamic Jihad. So it's a bit difficult to foretell where this current bout in the war will lead.
Yeah.
There's so many surprises unraveling as we currently speak. But it is the final piece in what has been a long war to undermine, first on Iran's part to undermine Israel, and in Israel's response to
But Israel,
undermine
Israel, Israel
existential.
keeps saying Israel keeps saying they're attacking the nuclear sites. Okay, but how much Iran has developed their nukes? Because we really do not have a clear picture. Of course, Iran being a country which is much of a dictatorship. So, how much do we know about that? Where has their Iran nuclear, nukes are prepared, and when can they really have a nuclear weapon? Because now they are attacking in this name, and many countries have been devastated in Middle East in the name of weapons.
I think it's a good question, but the reality is the IAEA, the top international nuclear watchdog, as a matter of fact, this last week came out with a resolution acknowledging that Iran was in breach of its nuclear non-proliferation duties. Iran was a party to the nuclear non-proliferation treaty when it started enriching. On top of that, it was found to have been in violation of the JCPOA, the nuclear agreement with Western nations. And it was found recently, intelligence discovered and revealed that Iran had actually conducted nuclear implosion tests, which are necessary for long-term weapon development approximately 2 decades ago. Iran has been acting completely in bad faith this whole time. There's an agreement in place before the NPT, which it violated. And then to help people understand, to develop a nuclear weapon, you need to enrich nuclear stockpiles, uranium
Right.
stockpiles
Now,
to
now
about 20%.
the other problem
Yeah.
that Russia just last week, they have brought their bombers, that too nuclear capable bombers near Iran in Far East, Middle East. So Russia is also, of course, not going to be silent if situation arises that Iran is going to attack US military bases. It is just yesterday that Iran said that if Israel attacks, it is going to be devastating, and they're not going to spare US bases. And there are at least 3,000 soldiers of USA who are there. So US somehow will have to participate in this war.
I think just going quickly back to your original question, though, Iran has already enriched beyond 20%, some stockpile 60%. All Iran needed for a nuclear energy facility, if it were being honest, was about 3%, 3 to 5%. So it's well beyond that threshold. Regarding your question in regards to Russia and Iranian response and foreign intervention, it should be noted that Russia's hands are quite tied right now, especially when it comes to the war in Ukraine. It's possible that the reason Syria fell so quickly and Assad, a proxy of Russia in the Middle East, as well as for Iran, fell so quickly was because Russia simply couldn't sustain him anymore. They didn't have the resources, the time, the bandwidth. And so
But
I'm
still,
not
despite all that, Putin didn't say no to war. He's still attacking, and they have taken several kilometers of Ukraine. So it seems like Putin is winning. Of course, there is a different propaganda that all works for Russia and Ukraine as well. But let's stick to Middle East for now. And of course, we are bringing in Russia because Russia is the arch rival of USA, and they are not going to spare those bases which are in Middle East, that too close to Iran. What I mean to say, if I have to summarize this, that US is in big trouble despite Trump saying that he does not want to be involved in this attack. And Rubio just tweeted that you if US bases are hit, they'll react. But they have said that they are not part of this Operation Rising Lion. But US will be
I think
attacked. It is imminent.
I think I think the United States has created a degree of plausible deniability here. It has engaged with Iran in over, at least until now, 5 rounds of negotiations to try to forge some sort of nuclear deal with Iran, which has made
Right.
clear it wants to continue to enrich. So there's a degree of separation over there. Trump has come out in the media basically making it seem that even though he's willing to entertain the option, any option to make sure that Iran won't get nuclear weapons, he's
Mhm.
also made sure to create a separation in terms of plausible deniability between what action Israel might pursue and what the United
Right.
States might pursue. And so right now, Iran doesn't have tangible proof to go after the United States for the
Mhm.
developments right now in the Middle East. Of course, it seems that the United States does support Israel's efforts to defend itself against existential threats right now, but there still is that room that gives the United States some breathing
We
room to go in to see if there is any potential for some sort of nuclear deal on Sunday, which I highly doubt there will
Yeah,
be.
yeah. I think the nuclear talks are going to fail for sure. But the bigger problem that it can spiral in the entire Middle East and then to Europe and other places. I mean, the World War III. Are we already in World War III, or there is something left, or this might start with this Operation Rising Lion?
That's a good question. Nobody ever knows initially when they're kind of in a world war, as is what happened in World War One, and then in World War Two, people thought that policies of appeasement would eventually cause the end of that war, and it didn't. And so right now, it's hard to determine what the future holds. I can't imagine Russia will get involved with its bandwidth being as occupied as it is right now. China probably wouldn't want to unsettle the region given the investments it has in the One Belt, One Road initiative, which goes all throughout the Middle East. And on top of that, it's important to understand that there are many Sunni actors in the Middle East who will secretly be celebrating this response by Israel as a victory against one of their greatest rivals, Iran. Saudi Arabia also perceives of Iran as an existential threat,
Hmm.
as do some. I mean, a few actors in the Middle East now consider Iran as an existential threat. One of the biggest power players being Saudi Arabia. So people will be celebrating behind the scenes. There have been proxy wars between Shiite Islamists and Sunni Islamists now since the Arab Spring and for years even before, such as in Lebanon, where Hezbollah, a Shiite Islamist movement, once maintained strong control over the country and now a bit lesser so. And so these proxy
Jordan,
wars continue.
this
Yeah.
could be the final war and maybe end of Iran if Iran attacks US bases because Israel has killed the top command last year. Even in this attack, in the very first attack, they have killed the commander. So my question is, why not Khamenei? I mean, if Israel wants, they can finish Khamenei and then the war is over and they can control Iran. Do you think it is possible? Because Russia, of course, was not active even last year. Russia did not come up or China did not come up in support of Iran. It was only verbal.
I definitely think withholding the assassination of the Ayatollah Khamenei is a bargaining chip. It's to help Iran realize that it's on its last legs. It's possible, however, that there could be underground operations soon to commence at some point in the future. This will definitely be a reckoning point for the Iranian people, that the regime is as weakest as it's been since the Masa Amini protest. And Iran is also a country that's very fragile in terms of demographics. A significant portion of the population, perhaps even up to 40% of the population, is composed of ethnic minorities such as Azeris, Baluchis, Kurds, Arabs in Kuznetstan, many of whom have national aspirations of their own. And for a country that is one of the greatest state sponsors of terrorism, Iran, it's also important to note that approximately, according to Michael Axworthy, an author about a book on Iran, noted that only 1.5% of the population goes to Friday prayers. And so you have a Islamist regime in charge of a people which, though it does have significant Islamist elements, is also largely secular. And so there's a lot of fragmentation in Iranian society, and this could be an interesting breaking point for people to realize that a different future is needed.
But my last question, where are we heading with all the wars? Of course, we saw India, Pakistan as well for 2 or 3 days. But where are we heading as a world, as world citizens? Is our future in dark?
It's complicated because right now we're focusing on the Middle East and South Asia, but who's not to say that the focus of the world might pivot to Asia and the Pacific? All of this being said, the Middle East has always been a strong point focus of the world. I don't see it changing anytime soon. I don't see, per se, wars ending forever in the immediate future. But I do think it's important that we use this opportunity to stand up against terrorism wherever it may manifest, whether from the borders of Pakistan, whether from Iran and its proxies, whether from terrorist groups in the Gaza Strip. We all need to be more organized when it comes to fighting terrorism and to realizing the threat that Islamist terrorism can pose.
Thank you so much. It was Jordan Cope giving us all the details about what has happened early morning. And of course, we'll keep an eye what is happening in the Middle East and how Iran is going to react because Iran has said that the action this time will not be just to show the world what is their capability, but it is going to be deadly, that there are going to be casualties. Let's hope for the best. However, the war has reignited in Iran. This is Nagin Singh for One India.
Subscribe to One India and never miss an update. Download the One India app now.